Real quick before the video starts, I did want to mention that Mercari is by far the best way to buy Skylanders in the United States. And if you're interested in signing up, I've provided a link in the description and in the pinned comments for you, which will get you $10 off your first purchase. I would highly recommend this as most Skylanders are only around $10 to begin with. Anyways, on with the video. This video isn't sponsored or anything, it is just a free $10 for you guys that all you have to do is create an account and you'll get it. With each new Skylanders game that came out, they always had a new gimmick. This is kind of the defining feature of the Skylanders game. What makes it unique? What makes it different? Some of the gimmicks are very much used and implemented throughout the game, and some of them are not. Some gimmicks are pretty much never even used. You can play through the entire game while completely ignoring them. You look at Giants, and Giants pretty much just make everything a lot easier, a lot quicker. You can break walls without using bombs. You can do feats of strength to bring in islands, collect new treasures, or progress through the game generally faster and more efficiently. Looking at Trap Team, trapping enemies is pretty useless since they're weak, and you can kind of just ignore it the entire game. However, if you do it, it's pretty fun and it's cool, I would say, overall. Vehicle sections are shoved down your throat constantly, and there's no way around them. If you play Superchargers, you're going to deal with vehicle sections. You're going to deal with driving, which means you're going to deal with the game's main gimmick. And then looking at Imaginators, creation crystals are suggested, and it's kind of encouraged since you are definitely collecting these Imaginite parts the entire game. It makes sense. They kind of want you to go out and create your own Skylander, but you don't have to. The senseis are pretty much going to be all you need from the beginning. And then when we look at Swap Force, the swappers are kind of just there. It's never really directly told to you that you need to swap these guys. Hell, even in the first level, when you find the first dual elemental gate, they specifically say if you use two different controllers in two different Skylanders of the different elements, you can enter them without even needing a swapper at all. Considering that there are only two different types of side areas in the whole game that you can use swappers to get into, and one of them is elemental gates, this is kind of crazy that from the get-go they pretty much just tell you, hey, you don't even need to get the new swappers to access these areas. You can just use your old Skylanders and your old collection as long as you have another controller, which I think is pretty interesting. It's pretty consumer friendly, but of course it doesn't really push the swappers on you. Swapping is a cool gimmick, but you're never really encouraged to do it. The game never really specifically tells you, hey, you should swap your Skylander right now. This will give you a bonus. This will make this level easier. It's going to be better for this specific zone. There's really none of that in Swap Force. And then you look at the other zone that's specific to swappers, which are basically the movement type zones. They have nothing to do with actually swapping the Skylanders. It is just based on the movement type on the bottom, which of course means you can switch out the top if you want, but there's no reason to do that really because the entire zone is based on the bottom, which makes it doesn't even matter what top you have in this situation. It's kind of weird, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's just what they did to Swap Force, and it's the reason that a lot of people don't really even swap their Skylanders. They never really feel like they have to. In addition to this, many combinations just make a Skylander feel worse. Overall, it's very common to hear people say that a swapper often feels better with just their original combination without swapping out either part. That is going to be the best experience you're going to get out of that Skylander. And it makes sense because pretty much a bottom is designed to work with a specific top in mind and vice versa. When they create a Skylander, they obviously make moves that they think are going to work together. When you take a swapper, you're basically splitting that in half. So it's like take Crypt King and split two of his moves apart from one of his moves. When you put them together, it's probably going to make a lot more sense than if you split up other random Skylander and then try to swap those attacks around, which means the swappers are generally always going to feel better when they're in the original state. An example to really just make this a lot more clear is that Freeze Blade's bottom gives him speed and close range to a primarily stationary and long range Skylander with his top. This works really well. Of course, you're going to be able to get that close range, sort of very up close and speedy movement with his bottom, as well as a long range top that's going to give you multiple sort of mid range to long range attacks, which just makes Freeze Blade work very well. He's an awesome Skylander because of this. Or you could look at Stink Bomb, whose bottom gives his high damaging powerhouse of a top, stealth options, and maneuverability. This really does make him work very well as it gives him a different playstyle that makes him a lot more accessible to a lot more fans of the series and not just limited to a specific niche fan group. With this basic Skylander design in mind, it makes it so that using a different bottom will often throw off the balance of a Skylander's moveset. If a Skylander's top is just long range moves, and then you give him a bottom, which is also just a long range move, it's not really going to work. That's just going to limit sort of the overall options and how well that moveset works, which is why a lot of people won't do it. But in a lot of cases, this actually isn't how it ends up working. Certain combinations, and I will say most combinations, actually do the exact opposite, where swapping out the bottom will simply give you more options and will give you different ways to experience that Skylander based on the playstyle you like. This gives a lot of customization, but still a pretty limited degree, because obviously you're pretty much just swapping halves rather than looking at something like Imaginators where you're swapping the entire Skylander's moveset around as much as you would like. If we go back to the example with Freezeblade, if you love his long-range stationary chop, but don't really care about the aggressive speed capabilities of his bottom, you can freely switch his bottom round to give you something more viable for your playstyle. As an example, if I want to give him the ability to take care of everything around him quickly, then I'll give him Free Ranger's bottom, sacrificing speed for area of effect and crowd control. This gimmick very much lets you work with any Skylander to get them to fit your playstyle, which I absolutely love. Skylanders that don't fit my playstyle, I don't really like to use them. But with swappers, if a Skylander doesn't fit your playstyle, you can often either swap out the top or the bottom to make them a lot more accessible and really just fit how you like to play the game. This is awesome. This is very good for new fans getting into Skylanders for the first time. You can swap your Skylanders and they can definitely fit your playstyle better, which I think is a huge plus and something you don't really get from any other Skylanders, obviously other than creation crystals, where you get to just create your own Skylander from the ground up. I really do think swapping Skylanders is a slept on gimmick, which is kind of weird to say, because for the most part, this is the most beloved gimmick in the series. But again, it's another case of I just don't use it that much, and I don't think many Skylanders fans actually use this gimmick that much. It is a very slept on gimmick that a lot of people love and will praise for how cool and innovative it was, but it's just not implemented into the gameplay well enough for you to really feel like you have to do it or like there's any advantage to do it. But at the end of the day, when just playing Skylanders casually, swapping tops and bottoms on your Swap Force Skylanders is one of the best ways to freshen it up and really change any Skylander that you like to have a playstyle that even better fits how you like to play the game. And this whole time, I haven't even been touching on what's probably the coolest part, and that is the gimmick. Having physical toys that swap parts like this is incredibly cool and interactive. There's 256 different combinations that work seamlessly from the figures to the games, which really does feel magical. This magic is something really special to Swap Force, and of course you can use it in later games, but it really distinguishes the swappers from all the other Skylanders and makes them feel like something completely unique and different, and it's something really none of the other gimmicks really came close to. Imagine Imaginators if you had to actually physically attach arms and legs and create this new Skylander from scratch. That would be so weird but so cool at the same time. But it's pretty much impossible to pull that off. That's why I think Swap Force really nailed this gimmick of you have your physical figures and you create what seems like the best match for you with very limited customization that still gives you a variety of options, which I think was pretty much done perfectly. And then you put it on the portal and you see that exact figure with both those elements, parts, and moves associated with those parts implemented perfectly into the game, and you can play as it. It is absolutely magical and absolutely amazing, and one of the best parts of the entire Skylanders franchise. If you haven't played Swap Force in a while, or even if you just don't really swap your Skylanders much, I would say you should definitely give it a shot. It brings a real sense of magic, nostalgia, and freshness to the game, which really cannot be matched by any other game in the series. Just go out there, try some new combination, and who knows, you might find one that you really fall in love with. Even as someone who doesn't really enjoy Swap Force too much these days, I can still appreciate the innovation and magical feeling behind the swappers, and highly recommend you guys to all experiment with this system, or at least for a little bit. With that being said, that is going to wrap this video up. I do hope you guys enjoyed, and of course this is just my opinion, but I think a lot of it does come from factual evidence from the game, so hope you guys can agree with me. But if you don't, if you disagree, please feel free to put your opinion down in the comments below. I love interacting with you guys down there. It's cool to see your guys' opinions, and once again, hit that link if you want to get $10 free of credit on Mercari to go to any Skylander you want. That is an awesome option that I would definitely recommend you do. And again, this is not sponsored. This is just something that I think is very clear and a feature that I can access. So if you guys want $10 free for Mercari credit, go ahead and press that link. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Hope you guys did enjoy. So long, everybody.